Welcome back. All right, so let's talk about the Arizona Coyotes, a preview of their season that is yet to come. And of course, they're the butt of a lot of jokes, whether you're talking about the arena situation or whether you're talking about the on ice results. But I see the plan. And this is something I keep saying because I do. And so hopefully in this video, I can explain how the plan is this slowly coming together type of plan. There's definitely no rush to it, but I can see what they're doing. So this past season, they were 28, 40, and 14. That was good for 27th overall. This is a team that does tend to win more games than they should. When you look at their roster on paper, Andre Tourigny knows how to get them to win. So this past season, they scored 2.74 goals per game. They do want to raise that total, and they want to drop the goals against 3.60 goals against per game. But again, it feels like they're slowly taking those steps and they're making those strides and they're picking up prospects every year, a lot of good young players. And now they're reaching the part where the rubber meets the road, right? They're getting close to that point. Now, their power play, 18.9%, another number they're going to want to improve, as well as the penalty kill at 74.6%. So you add those two together, you get 93.5. So special teams weren't great for them. 5-on-5 play, there were struggles as well. But again, this is a team that started a rebuild without really technically finishing the previous one. But now I kind of get it now, and we'll see when they get back to being a playoff team. I don't see it this year. They were in the playoffs in 2020, in part because, well, they won the qualifying round they needed to. They weren't in the top 8 in the West that year, but they won that qualifying round. So again, that qualifies winning a round, but if you say, well, that wasn't playoffs and they lost in round 1, okie dokie. The last time they won in round 1 was 2012 when they went all the way to the conference final. So for Arizona, for all the frustration people have with, there aren't enough fans, this and that, the Coyotes have not had any level of success for over a decade. And so I totally understand why fans wouldn't necessarily be clamoring for the season tickets at this point. But I do think there's something building there. Now, of course, this franchise doesn't have a Stanley Cup, whether you're talking about the original Jets, you're talking about the Coyotes. A Stanley Cup, they haven't been to a final. That 2012 run to the conference final, that's about as close as they've gotten. Now, they do still have cap space, which is unusual for Arizona, to be honest. And normally they have a lot of dead cap money, $3,903,690. And I'm not going to pretend they don't have a lot of dead cap money this year, but there's still cap space there. They could still take on another one, but if they take on a contract, it won't extend beyond 2026. That would seem to be the deadline, and then past that, they want to be getting to the salary cap ceiling via paying all their own players and not worrying about paying money to players that aren't actually playing for them. Whether it's Voracek, whether it was Datsuk back in the day, whoever you want to talk about. Pronger, a lot of them have gone through Arizona technically, but not played a game for them. So the top 5 scorers. Clayton Keller, easily the number 1 scorer, 82 games, 37 goals, 49 assists, 86 points. Should be setting franchise records, at least in the desert, with scoring. I don't think he's going to get close to the Dale Hawerchuk records from the Winnipeg Jets, but we'll see, right? Keller's playing really well. I do believe he's a star player, and scoring has been up, and maybe scoring goes up again this year. At the very least, when Arizona's team gets better, Keller's numbers should get better as well. Schmaltz had a good year, only played 63 games due to injury, but 22 goals, 36 assists, 58 points. So right near a point per game for Nick Schmaltz, and people are well aware of what a fan of his game I am. And when you're looking at third on the list, you get to Matias Maccelli, 64 games for him, 11 goals, 38 assists, 49 points. Maccelli, if he had scored more goals, played the full season, would have got a lot more consideration for the Calder. I still don't think he would have beaten Beniers, but Maccelli's very good and probably under the radar a little bit. When you get to your fantasy drafting, I think Maccelli could get to 60 points this year. I think that's possible, especially if he doesn't miss games this year with injury. And I'm not saying he missed a bunch of games with injury. He only played 64 games in the NHL last year to get to 49 points. To get to 60, I think he has to play around the 80 game mark. Lawson Crouse, 77 games, 24 goals, 21 assists, 45 points. At various points in time over the last couple years, I've seen, maybe Crouse could be available. Maybe this team could trade for Crouse out of Arizona. I've never seen anything tied to an actual Arizona source on that because Crouse is very popular. He's a big player. He hits. He can score goals. He does a little bit of everything. I can't see him going anywhere. And Barrett Hayden came into his own in the second half of the season. Ends up with 82 games played, 19 goals, 24 assists, 43 points. And really, that second half of the season, he was very good. Really solid first line play from the Arizona Coyotes. And again, it gets kind of forgotten and buried because the Coyotes are kind of just shrugged off, really. And with their record, I understand it. So the goaltending, Carl Vejmelka, 50 games played, 18, 24, and 6 record, 900 save percentage. Vejmelka can be very good. Consistency can be an issue. Ingram had a good year. The record wasn't as good as Vejmelka's. He ends up 6-13 and 8 in 27 games, but a 907 save percentage, which is right around league average. Not bad. Playing behind a defense in Arizona that's not been fantastic over the last few years. Prosvetov, his win-loss record was good at 4-3 and 7 appearances, but the 880 save percentage not as good. Prosvetov is seen as likely being the next one in the net for them. Needs to have that progression this season. I don't see any reason why Vejmelka and Ingram can't hold things down for another year. And then Prosvetov probably comes in as one of the top 2 goaltenders next season. Now, the hits leader on the team was McBain with 304. So that's good. That's a lot of hits thrown by McBain. Block shots, J.J. Mosier leading there with 137. So J.J. Mosier, another kind of easy to overlook player if you're not following the Coyotes, but Mosier's a good defenseman in his own right. Posts, not a lot of guys hitting posts. Keller and Schmaltz lead the way with 6. So covered a team this morning, you get 11 for their leader. In this case, it's 2 guys with 6. So Keller and Schmaltz, both of them, good seasons. I'm not surprised they lead in terms of hitting the post. The next one on this team is Logan Cooley. I believe it's Logan Cooley. He has signed a contract. He will play for them this year. This is a team that could have 2 very good scoring lines. And so for a fantasy sleeper, I put Gunther. I think that Gunther, and I put him as a sleeper because I could see Keller being popular. I think Cooley's going to get a lot of attention. Schmaltz being around a point per game, he'll get drafted relatively early. But I think Gunther has the potential to be a very good player in the NHL as well and could score right out of the gate too. Because there's going to be these young players coming in. I think they should be a lot more fun to watch. They could be very good in transition as well if the foot speed translates to the NHL level. And so we'll see. Their MVP's Clayton Keller for me. It really revolves around what Keller does. Certain games, Vejmelka's their MVP, but over the full season, it's going to be Keller. They do need to have players that are a little bit closer to him in scoring. He can't be on his own. And so they need multiple players at that 80-point mark and higher. Schmaltz, if he can play the full 82 games, that would definitely help there. But yeah, Keller, for me, still their MVP. The schedule in October, they have 5 of 8 on the road. I won't say too much about that, though, because comparatively speaking to the previous season, where, 13 in a row on the road? I guess you'll take a bit of a lopsided schedule early on where 5 of 8 are on the road, but it's even during November, so the schedule, not bad. And for the Coyotes, that's good news. Now, Zucker and Dumba have joined this team on 1-year contracts, and we need to get through to the additions and the subtractions because there are some very interesting additions for this team. So the exits, Christian Fischer, Patrick Nemeth, who's signed overseas, Zach Cassian, who's still out there as a free agent, Brett Ritchie is as well, Mackey exits, Dauphin. So nobody who's really a core player ends up leaving, but then you look at the additions, you've got Zucker coming in, he had 27 goals for Pittsburgh last year. It is a 1-year deal for him, so it's a show-me contract, and what better place to go? So those 27 goals would have been second on the Coyotes last year. If he can hit that mark again with Arizona, I think they're going to be quite happy. That'll help to improve the goal scoring, and who knows, maybe helps to improve their power play as well. Zach Sanford joins the team. Bukestad has returned after being rented out to the Edmonton Oilers. Kerfoot comes over from Toronto. Dursey is added to the blue line. He's very good on the power play as well, so look for those power play numbers to rise. He does have 5-on-5 issues, but they already dealt with Gostisbehere. It's a very similar story to Gostisbehere, but I think Dursey's younger than Gostisbehere was when he joined the team, so we'll see what happens. Stetcher has returned as well. He was rented out at the deadline, and this bodes well. When you rent players out at the deadline, and then when they become free agents, they want to come back, that's great. And I know it can be frustrating to see players rented out and you go, oh, I hope he comes back, and then he doesn't. So for Coyotes, they've done a good job of showing players that they have a good organization, and yeah, players want to stick around. and return. They've added Dermott as well, who of course missed I think he missed almost all of last season with Vancouver last year with injury, so hopefully he's 100%. And of course Dumba has been added on the blue line. Dumba had a down year with the Minnesota Wild. We'll be looking to turn that around. So that's a lot of decent players, right? You're adding with Dumba and Durzi, that's two top six defensemen. Arguably both could be top four. Stetcher's top six as well. Zucker can play top six in the NHL. Kerfoot can play top six in the NHL. And so I do believe that this team is going to get better. By how much? It may be similar to the improvement they had this year. So Turney gets his extension. Andre Turney will be coach of this team for a while yet. There's no pressure on him for the team to make the playoffs. And I think with the record being 53, 90, and 21, it's easy to point fingers and say, well, he's not very good. Look at their record. But the team, again, if you look at them on paper, hasn't been very good either. So those wins, honestly, it could be a lot worse without a good coach. The new arena decision, which comes up a lot, I thought I'd throw it in here as well. That is expected in January. So whether it's the 1st of January when the team announces it, there's been some speculation about whether or not it might get announced during the All-Star break. But that's right around where it's expected, is between the 1st of January and when we get into the All-Star break. So stay tuned for that. I know they've got various places they've looked at in Mesa, Scottsdale, as well as Phoenix. So we'll see what they actually decide in the end. Now, this was the third straight season they were below 500. 2019-2020, they were above 500. They got into the playoffs via the upset victory over Nashville and then lost to Colorado in what was technically round one. So this is a team that's been iffy to bad for some time, and it's a matter of building it up so they're not going to be bad for a while, right? So they had a 13-point improvement in 2022-2023. If they have another 13-point improvement this year, that puts them at 83 points. Still not a playoff team, but again, another 13-point improvement. You're getting to the point where you're near a winning record. Your fans can say, hey, we see the plan and what's going on. Understanding that, yes, they're going to be at Mullet this year as well. That definitely caps their ability to make the maximum amount of money. Although, according to management, they're making more money now at Mullet than they were at Gila River. Again, I know you can mess with the books to turn the numbers and that kind of thing, but, I mean, why not give them the benefit of the doubt and say fine? And I think that may very well be true because I don't think they were making money at Gila River at all. So drafting has been important for this team, and they get it. And this is part of the reason why I really appreciate the rebuild they've been going through. So 2023, this year they had 12 draft picks. The previous year they had 10 draft picks. So in a 7-round draft, that's pretty good. And a lot of these being in the first 3 rounds. 2021, they had 9 draft picks. 2019, they had 9 draft picks as well. The one exception on here would be 2020, where they had 5 draft picks, including the first one they used on Mitchell Miller, which they rescinded. So it becomes 4 draft picks. But in 2020, they were in a position to make a playoff, and so it made some sense that they took a chance on it, because this was a team that really wanted to make the playoffs and make some noise, and then immediately went back into rebuild mode when it was clear that that wasn't working for them. So for the Arizona Coyotes, it's going to be another year of likely not making the playoffs, but there is a plan, and we'll see whether or not it works. So, yeah. It's going to be a matter of finding that new building, get that out of the way, and you shouldn't have a problem keeping players around. But there was a lot of discussion when the Tempe deal fell through that maybe there'd be a bunch of players exiting the team and all of that, and it really hasn't happened. They've been able to get a lot of players to sign, and they've been able to bring a lot of players back. So we'll see how it turns out this year. What are your expectations for the Coyotes? Let me know your feelings on that. Do you agree with the channel? 2% said first or second, which I can't get there. 4% said third or fourth, so that's 6% of the vote said fourth or higher. 29% said fifth or sixth, and 65% said seventh or eighth. They were seventh this past season. Do they stay there or do they move up? So let me know your thoughts as to whether or not you feel that channel vote is going to be being accurate. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happen upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.